What's going on, everybody? I hope everyone has had a fantastic weekend. What better way to kick off the week than to go over currently the Miami Hurricanes football potential staff? Remember, guys, tonight will just be a coaching staff show. We may get into some recruiting, but we plan on having an outstanding recruiting show tomorrow, Ross. So we're definitely looking forward to that. But Ross, I wanted to start off. Obviously, Coach Cristobal gets the job at Miami. You hear some rumors here and there. Some coaches are going to be coming from Oregon. Mirabal, a lock to come to the University of Miami. Their offensive line coach from Oregon. He's a local guy. I believe he went to Christopher Columbus Senior High School with Mario Cristobal. And he's known to be a very good recruiter as well. He's already done kind of one-on-ones with players in the offensive line, which was helped coordinated by Garen Justice. Do you have any concern, Ross, for this taking so long for a staff to come in? I mean, we are, I think, 2 days away from early National Signing Day.
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of hoping we'd completed a little more than this by now, but dude, I trust Cristobal, man. I really do. I mean, he's such an ace recruiter, and he's got such a good feel for it that I'm just not going to freak out until there's actually a moment to really freak out. I mean, dude, I like I said, I'm going to trust this guy until he gives me a reason not to.
I agree. No, I am very confident in Mario Cristobal. I strongly believe we have the funding to have a top 5, top 10 staff in the nation. And in my opinion, I have to trust and I have to be confident in whoever he hires. And I know one thing, offensive line play is going to be a complete 180. And we'll start off with Alex Mirabal. Have you gone over kind of the players he's recruited in the past and his personnel that he's brought into Oregon?
He's always been part of, if not leading the way for their 5-star, 4-star guys. I mean, just typical, he was there coaching Penei Sewell and all those guys, and a part of their recruitment as well. This is a proven guy. We finally have a proven offensive line coach that has had success in the Power 5 in the NCAA. This isn't reaching for an assistant offensive line coach in the NFL. It's nothing like that. We got a guy who actually is solid and is going to make our offensive line better.
Yeah, no, it's going to be a complete 180, guys. Offensive line play, recruiting. We're going to have the appropriate personnel. We're going to be a lot better football team. I saw Randy Noel talk about some offensive coordinator talk. We had a show about potentially Joe Brady coming to the University of Miami. There was mutual interest, according to Barry Jackson, the Miami Herald, Michael Ryan Ruiz. There were some serious talks about being a potential offensive coordinator at the University of Miami. Barry Jackson released a tweet, I believe it was a couple days ago. Joe Brady wants to have an NFL role. He wants to focus more on the opportunities the NFL gives him compared to college football. So Joe Brady is out of the conversation for offensive coordinator. Now, David Lake of 24/7 Sports stated today, Kendall Briles, the offensive coordinator at Arkansas, formerly part of Florida State. He was at Houston. He was down at Baylor with his father. If you remember Art Briles, there's interest from Kendall Briles and Mario Cristobal to be potentially the next offensive coordinator at the University of Miami.
I'd have no problem with Briles for the simple fact that I like the wide open offense he runs, and I know that he's got some familiar ties to recruiting in the South. It wouldn't bother me at all, dude. Wasn't he? Yeah, he was at FSU for a little bit too. So I mean, he was there. He was in Florida, actually learning the ropes.
So the funny thing about Kendall Briles, he was at Florida State for 2 years. I think this was with Willie Taggart, which I think was a good hire on his end.
Yeah,
there's a picture of him throwing down the U at or I don't know if it was like a meet and greet with the fans and the coaches, but he's throwing down the U. And now he's interested in the coaching job during his time at Arkansas.
It's funny how things come full circle, isn't it, Paul?
I do know, he did what made his stock really go high was his time at Baylor. I understand that was the reason why he became a hot commodity, because they were really kicking ass during that time. And then at Houston as well, he was very successful. And there was a lot of people wanted Kendall Briles to come to the University of Miami when he was at Houston, when we needed an OC. I think it was I don't want was it before Dan Enos or when we wanted to get rid of Dan Enos, either one way or the other.
One way or
But
the other. Yeah.
no, he was a very highly touted candidate. Goes to Florida State. I believe his second year they average uh, 400 total yards of offense per game, and that's with the talent he had at Florida State, which is merely completely nothing.
Yeah. And remember, too, he spent time at FAU as well with Lane Kiffin. And here's something that kind of speaks to his offensive prowess as an offensive coordinator here. Lane Kiffin said that Briles was given full control of the offense, including play calling. That's a lot coming from Lane Kiffin because we know how involved Lane Kiffin likes to be in his own offenses.
That's right. He was at FAU as well with Lane Kiffin.
Yes.
By the way, Mark Whipple has taken the offensive coordinator position at Nebraska, so that's out of the picture.
Okay.
So, Ross, I mean, have you done your homework on Kendall Briles at all with his offense? I mean, my main thing is we have one of the best quarterbacks in the nation, if not the best, coming back this season. We'll probably have one more year from him. I want to see progress. I don't want to see steadiness or just regression. I want him to have a stellar, probably final year of college football so he can get drafted. Do you think Kendall Briles as our OC can really maximize our offense?
I think that it'd be great fit for TVD, honestly. The wide open approach that he has. And remember, too, Briles is familiar with coaching quarterbacks as well. It's not just offensive coordinator or wide receivers. He's also coached quarterbacks. So I believe that kind of history that he has, if he's our OC and he's able to actually work with hands-on with our quarterbacks, it's just going to be nothing but success, dude. I mean, really, I really think so. I know some people don't like Briles, but dude, I love the wide open offensive approach that he has. I really do.
I want to hear from people in the chat. Who do you want? If you don't want Kendall Briles, okay, say someone else. Joe Brady's out of the picture, so don't say Joe Brady. Who do you want as offensive coordinator with realistic names? Who would you want? Put them in the chat. If you want Kendall Briles, put in Kendall Briles. So please in the chat. Some names I think would be interesting that I think are realistic guys. Warren Ruggiero from Wake Forest. I think he did a tremendous job with Wake Forest and Sam Hartman as his quarterback. People are going to hate me for this. Dan Mullen. I think he's a two-time national champion at during his tenure at Florida as offensive coordinator under Urban Meyer. He's been the head coach at 2 SEC programs. He brings in a ton of experience. He's a great offensive mind of the game of football. I think that would be an outstanding hire at OC as well. And honestly, this is a little dicey. Ken Dorsey, I don't think what do you think about Ken Dorsey coming back? Do you think he'll make that move? Because, Ross, believe it or not, I think some offensive coordinators probably make more than NFL coordinators at times.
Hey, it just depends on what school you're at and when you're at that school. If you're competing for titles and you're a well-known guy, you're going to make a lot of money in college. That's for sure. I don't think he's going to want to come to college. Honestly, I think that he is kind of getting himself ingrained in the NFL. And who's to say that Dorsey's a guy who just wouldn't? Maybe he doesn't want to recruit 365 days a year. Maybe he enjoys the approach to the NFL game, having guys on contract, free agents, all that kind of stuff, instead of actually having to do the hardcore recruiting. Don't get me wrong. I'd love to see it. I'd have no problem if Dorsey was our OC, but I just don't see him making that move, unfortunately.
I see a couple mixed reviews about Ken Dorsey. I got 50-50. See a couple people mentioning Tom Herman as OC. So, hey, we'll see. I mean, look, I got 3 people saying Tom Herman. I don't even know if he's interested. I don't know what's going through his mind. I don't know. So we'll see what happens with that. But I'll tell you what, we need an offensive coordinator that can maximize this offense. There's not many times when you get one of the best quarterbacks in college football on your football team. So now's the time.
How would you feel about us, if we were going to go a route like Kendall Briles with the open, wide open passing offense? How would you feel about having a guy like Ponce come in to be the run game coordinator?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if that's something, I'm fine with that. Just run game coordinator, that's it. I don't like taking on the full duties as offensive coordinator, calling plays. No, absolutely not. No. Having that assistant role, that's fine. Something I touched up on Twitter in regards to the running backs coach, whoever it is, if it's Coach Hickson's, if they bring in Jaquan Cedar as well, who's a very good recruiter, there's always going to be talent at the running back room. every single running back room we have at the University of Miami always has NFL talent year in and year out. We've never had an issue recruiting at the running back position.
No.
It's always going to just reload. So it doesn't really matter for me who coaches the running backs. But yeah, I'm all for it. But if Frank Bonta is named the run game coordinator, he'll probably be the running backs coach, which isn't a bad hire.
I wouldn't mind that at all, honestly. His approach, the power run game mixed with getting fast guys to the outside, it just screams Miami, because that's the profile we have right now. We've got some power backs, and we've got an elite speed back in Jalen Knighton that can get to the outside and make big plays. And we've also got guys like Brashard Smith who can be used in those kind of roles, occasionally.
And, speaking of the offense, wide receivers coach, according to Footballville Nation, Bryce McClendon is expected to be the wide receivers coach at the University of Miami. He's currently at Oregon. Their entire staff is staying on for the Alamo Bowl they're playing in, so don't expect any coaches to make the transition anytime soon. Aaron Feld as well is still with them. So
I'd love to have McClendon over at Miami. I would. He's got nothing but a history, especially since being at Oregon, of recruiting top-notch guys. I mean, everybody that was associated with Cristobal, Oregon, was either a good recruiter or an elite recruiter. So, I mean, it's kind of like, he not only is a good recruiter himself, Cristobal is our head coach, but he surrounds himself with guys that he knows can recruit just as well as he can.
Now, there was a hot commodity, a name that was mentioned by 24/7 Sports. David Lake mentioned Tim Brewster is interested in the tight ends coaching position. And if you guys follow college football in the sense of recruiting, Tim Brewster is pretty infamous and kind of, bantering, joking around with University of Miami fans, especially on social media. He was on the coaching staff at Florida State, one of their head recruiters. I mean, he has some strong ties in Miami-Dade County. Was the tight ends coach at UNC. Also was previously on Florida's staff as well. So he has a very good resume. A lot of fans don't like him because he really does poke fun at Miami a lot. Yeah. But he's interested in the job. And I think that would be a solid hire, in my opinion. If you get as a tight ends coach, Tim Brewster, with the resume he has and the connections he has in Miami, with the players he's recruited and brought into Florida State under Jimbo Fisher, with that whole Jameis Winston team, they were stacked. That would be outstanding.
This is a guy who's been coaching tight ends since 1989. So it's not like this is brand new for him or he's a new guy to the scene. He's been doing this since 1989. He played tight end himself, so he understands the role. He played tight end at Illinois in college. Remember, too, not just his college background. He also coached in the NFL as well. He had 2 stints in the NFL. He had one with the Chargers and he had one with the Broncos where he was coaching at tight ends. And I want to say assistant head coach title too for the Chargers one of those years. So, I mean, he's got some experience. He's got some serious chops in the game, dude.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people were talking about Coach Fields. Whatever Mario Cristobal does with Coach Fields and the staff, whether he keeps Rob Likens, I don't think he will. Whether he keeps Travaris Robinson, we'll get into that later. You got to trust him. So if he moves Coach Fields from a on-the-field role as a tight ends coach, which he is right now, to an off-the-field role, maybe just overseeing recruiting, you got to trust that. And having Tim Brewster and Coach Fields on your staff, Coach Fields is recruiting coordinator, Tim Brewster is tight ends coach, that's an elite combo. And then your O-line coach is Mirabal. Bryce McClendon is your wide receivers coach. And your OC, let's say, is a Kendall Briles. That is a top 10 staff in college football and recruiting, and that's probably the best offensive staff in the ACC, hands down.
I can't argue with that at all. I agree completely. That's a top 10 recruiting staff. And you know what else they do, Paul? They develop their players. They get recruits, they bring them in, and they develop the players, dude. Something that we've been missing at Miami for quite a while, unfortunately, was consistent development.
So, Ross, have you seen Tim Brewster's history of recruits that he's reeled in? Because it's not just he doesn't just recruit the tight end position.
Yep.
Like he's in charge of a lot of other positions in recruiting. Do you have some names that he's recruited in for the fans, people asking?
Yeah. Tyreek Sapp, defensive lineman. Marvin Wilson at FSU. Dalvin Cook. Ermon Lane. Even though Ermon didn't have a great career, he was still a highly ranked 4-star recruit. And he's also seen guys like Jay Sternberger, the tight end who's in the NFL right now. He found him as a pretty much a middle 3-star ranked kid and turned him into an NFL player. He also found Desmond Evans, who was the number 4 weak side defensive end in his class, and he found quarterback Malik Henry, who was the number 4 quarterback in his class.
So, he's got the first few names you said were pretty impressive, Tyreek Sapp, Marvin Wilson. Those are great names right there. So, he's got strong ties in Miami-Dade County. I think he was involved with Dalvin Cook and Devontae Freeman as well in their recruitment. Remember, Devontae Freeman was like a third-string running back at Miami Central. I think Florida State was their only D1 offer in the sense of Power 5 that he got. So, pretty impressive. Jimbo Fisher, Tim Brewster on the trail, that's elite. And they shut down recruiting in Dade County when Miami could not.
This is what I want to bring to Miami. I want Miami to shut down recruiting in Miami.
That's
Put
what
up
we
that
need.
fence. Put up that fence and keep these elite players home, bro.
And our previous head coach couldn't do that.
No.
Could not do that.
He was already telling us that we basically needed to get used to the fact that we're going to hit the transfer portal really hard because he couldn't land recruits.
So that was kind of like a projected offensive staff. Look out for Jaquan Cedar as well. That would be an outstanding hire. Yeah. I don't know if they'll keep Hickson. I have no idea. Maybe he's still being evaluated. But just look out for that. Moving over, Ross, defensive coordinator position. Who do you think is the top target?
Well, I've seen fans say that Schumann won't be a top target for us anymore because Lanning got that head coaching job. But I'm not fully sold on that, man. I'm not fully convinced by that. It sounds like we're willing to spend the money. And if we're willing to spend the money, we can go after guys who have been coaching in the SEC. We can get the co-defensive coordinators to maybe want to come over to the ACC. As long as we're spending money, and as long as we're proving and keep seeing that we're spending money, I'm going to figure that we're going to be in it for some of these big names.
Glenn Schumann would be a fantastic hire. He has an amazing relationship with Mario Cristobal. People believe he'd be very interested in this job. Also, there were some people on social media saying Kirby Smart thinks Glenn Schumann's a better defensive coordinator than Dan Lanning. Yeah. They share the roles. And then Will Muschamp's going to be the co-DC in the bowl game because people have been putting Will Muschamp's name in the chat left and right. Georgia's got a stellar defensive staff right there with like 3 literally DCs.
This is a guy who learned how to coach underneath Saban and then Kirby Smart right after. So, he's got 2 of the best guys in the game teaching him how to do it. And not only are they teaching him how to coach, they're teaching him how to recruit as well. This would be an ace hire for us at defensive coordinator, no doubt about it.
Anthony Mazzano had a question for you, Ross. Do you think Mario hires a linebacker coach to coach both inside and outside linebackers instead of having 2 guys coaching the same position?
Well, a guy like Schumann, he currently is an inside linebacker coach right now at Georgia. So, it's all going to matter on the hires. It really is. I think Cristobal is a fluid guy. I think he's pretty adaptable. I think he's willing to try new things that they need to. So it's all going to be about who we hire. If we hire a guy like Schumann, I believe that he'll come in as the DC and he'll do a little bit of linebacking coaches for us as well. No reason not to.
I think Glenn Schumann would be a phenomenal hire. I think Will Muschamp would be a phenomenal hire as well. I think both are amazing. I don't know how Will Muschamp will do with the players because he's kind of wacko. We've seen him get mad on the sidelines. He gets pretty intense. So I'm curious how that blends in with the players we have right now.
Schumann, he's a guy who went out and got Roquan Smith. He's actually recruited outside of his, kind of like the other coaches we talked about. He's not only recruited defensive guys, he's recruited some offensive guys as well. He's responsible for the 5 stars, Nolan Smith, Brock Vandergriff, N'Kobe Dean, Trevon Walker, and a couple more. There's, I think, Adam Anderson, Clay Webb. Those guys were all 5 stars. So, he's got at least, I'd have to say, 7 or 8 5-star recruits under his belt.
I think Glenn Schumann's the top priority right now, so we'll see what happens afterwards. But, I agree, though. Dan Lanning leaving to Oregon. Maybe Kirby wants to offer him more money. I don't know. But Glenn Schumann would be a great hire.
I
All
would
right.
be absolutely ecstatic if we brought that guy in, dude, especially considering who our defensive line coaches might be as well.
So there. Speaking of D line coach, there was an interesting report on Twitter. This was a member of the media outside of South Florida. I don't know. They're out of state, somewhere in the Northeast, I believe, in the Pittsburgh area. Stated that if Charlie Partridge does not get a raise, he will be heading over to the University of Miami.
One of my favorite defensive line coaches in the entire country. Absolutely. A guy who not only develops his players, but is capable of recruiting known guys and finding gems under, the hidden gems, basically. He's the one who found Cansey, the kid who's from Miami, the defensive lineman who loves to torture us when we play them. He finds these guys, and he does a great job at keeping them develop year after year after year. That defensive line at Pitt, if people look into the numbers, it's ridiculous. They lead the FBS in categories like sacks. These guys have been putting up major numbers for a while now, and he's been a part of that.
Charlie Partridge would be a great hire at D-line coach. He knows the area well. He was the head coach at Florida Atlantic for like 3 years.
Yep.
Recruits Pittsburgh. You said Cansey. I think he went to Miami Northwestern, top of my head. Knows the area. Outstanding D-line coach. That would be a great hire. Now, there was someone, I think it was it Kelvin Harris on Twitter, stated the Oregon D-line coach, if you can pronounce his name for me, Ross.
I don't know, the Salvea or Salvea?
Jay Salvea.
Like yeah, something like that. Sorry.
Oregon coach, he just congratulated him on Twitter for being the next D-line coach at Miami. I thought it was random. I don't know if it was official. Nothing's been named official. I just keep that out. Keep that in mind.
He's a guy, and there's a point that I want to make about him that I think will be really interesting, and it's something that has been talked about at Miami for a while, but it hasn't been actually really implemented. This is a guy who's in the Polynesian Football Hall of Fame. There's been talk about trying to get, more Polynesian players, more Samoan players down to Miami to open up that world, basically, that we haven't been recruiting in. And a guy like that would immediately put us in play for top recruits all across the nation and allow us to have a little bit more inside look at the Polynesian side of it.
Guys, if you want Charlie Partridge to be the next D-line coach at the University of Miami, hit the subscribe button. If you want Glenn Schumann to be the next defensive coordinator at the University of Miami, hit the like button. Help us out, guys. We would greatly appreciate it. Look, imagine a staff with Charlie Partridge, a D-line coach, Glenn Schumann as your defensive coordinator, and we're Travaris Robinson overseeing the secondary. That's incredible.
There's another point I want to bring up about Partridge too. He's the guy who developed J.J. Watt in Wisconsin.
That's right.
J.J. Watt was a 2-star recruit. He was a nobody. This is the kind of thing that Partridge does. He finds the hidden gems, and he doesn't just turn them into guys who are rotational players. He turns them into starters.
If you guys could subscribe, greatly appreciate that, Alejandro. Hit the like button would really mean the world to us. We're trying to bring you great coverage, and we're trying to have an outstanding recruiting show tomorrow with some very elite guests. I think you guys would really appreciate it.
Another name that I forgot to mention here too with Partridge, dude, Trey Flowers, when he was at Arkansas. That's another guy that he worked with. He had Trey Flowers and I believe Chris Smith. They were both all SEC guys that year.
Now, I mentioned Travaris Robinson a couple seconds ago. They were on the trail recruiting. It was him and Mario Cristobal. How confident are you Travaris Robinson stays on staff?
I'm feeling more and more confident as every day passes, honestly. Cristobal is not a guy who's going to linger around and just wait for something to happen. He makes moves, and he makes precise moves. So if T-Rob's still here and he's part of the recruiting that we're doing, I see no reason why he won't be staying. And I like it a lot because the rumor was that his relationship with Diaz was so bad that he was willing to leave Miami even for a similar job. He didn't need to upgrade or anything. He would have took a lateral move just to get out of Miami.
Now, do you think that opens the door to Will Muschamp? Because remember, he was Will Muschamp's defensive co-DC or defensive coordinator at South Carolina.
I think it would. Familiarity is a big thing in college football. It really is. Guys like to coach with guys who understand their system and that they don't have to babysit and walk through the entire process. They can bring them in and they can start coaching right away. That's why we see so many of the familiar. You see it from coast to coast.
Glenn Schumann or Will Muschamp at DC. D-line, Charlie Partridge or the Oregon D-line coach. DBs, Travaris Robinson.
Elite.
Now, do you think Travaris Robinson will just keep DBs or maybe just keep corners, safeties, etc.?
I think he would probably maintain the same role that he had with us last year. I think he'd oversee the entire secondary. I think, we're still developing some of our younger guys who are coming up, the DVDs of the world, we're still teaching them the ways to coach and stuff. So I think it's important to have a guy like T-Rob overseeing that while these guys are learning still, because he's a master teacher.
I agree. And yeah, there is an expectation Oregon's defensive backs coach will come over from Oregon to Miami. So if Travaris Robinson is held, I think they will split kind of the secondary. Someone takes corners, the other one takes safeties. So we'll see. Who's coaching special teams? Great question. I don't know. It's not going to be Packy. It won't be Packy.
Charlie Partridge has a little bit of a history of coaching special teams himself. He's done it at a couple of different places, I believe. So, while it's not his main thing right now, who knows? Maybe that's something that they'd want to revive in his career. We'll see.
So here's the thing, Jack. There's no rush to get this staff down. There's no rush. You want to get it right. You want to wait too, because remember, a lot of these programs right now, that you got the college football playoffs. You got these highly touted bowl games. They're focused on that.
Yep.
Mario Cristobal is doing all the dirty work right now with recruiting. We're literally, 2 days away?
Yeah.
2 days away from signing day. That's it. Kevin Coleman, he's working on him. Nigel Kelly, I think he's announcing tomorrow what school he's going to be attending. We'll see.
We're right there.
Thanks from the transfer portal, Alabama player.
It's time, dude. It's time. We got to – if we're not making – the hires right now necessarily, it's Cristobal putting in the work himself, doing that dirty work like you mentioned. It's so vital for him to keep these recruiting options open for us while we develop this coaching staff.
By the way, guys, Marcus Banks was given a crystal ball by 24/7 Sports today in the direction of the University of Miami. He is a cornerback from the Alabama Crimson Tide, former 4-star recruit out of high school. That would be a great pickup.
Love it. I would love that kind of pickup. He fits T-Rob's system. He really does. If you watch his film, he is a perfect fit for what T-Rob likes to do. And I believe that Cristobal is smart enough to let T-Rob coach the secondary like he's supposed to, instead of having Manny Diaz have T-Rob coach his tired-ass, washed-up secondary. I was just sick of seeing it. Why even bring in a guy like T-Rob if you're not going to let him be T-Rob? You know what I'm saying? Let him be T-Rob.
Ross, who do you guys feel will be the U surprise recruit? I think Kevin Coleman will be a Miami Hurricane. That is a huge recruit out of St. Louis, Missouri. Wide receiver. I believe he's a 4-star or 5-star. Stud. Reminds me of Jeff Thomas on film. Kadarius Toney has that shifty gear. Obviously, development is key.
I'll go with Cyrus Moss. I'll go with the defensive end out of Bishop Gorman.
Cyrus Moss, Bishop Gorman. If we can get Kevin Coleman, Cyrus Moss out of Bishop Gorman, Nigel Kelly, with the small time span we had with Mario Cristobal, that's huge.
It's massive, dude. For things to happen this quick, this late in the cycle, dude, this isn't normal. This isn't, most coaches don't get these kind of recruits to just show up one after another when they're this fresh at a new school, especially when there's so many questions surrounding the whole process. He's moving from Oregon to Miami. There's a whole lot of stuff happening outside of that, the talk, the media, everything else. So yeah, man, it's awesome to have that guy around.
And with Cyrus Moss, it's us and USC.
I believe so. I think that Alabama might try to make a push. I really do. Dude, this kid's so damn good. He's so damn good. He's crazy athletic. He's smart and he's tough. He's everything I want in a defensive end at Miami right now.
And, we had the Bishop Gorman connection as well. Bubba Bolden, Brevin Jordan. They've excelled at the University of Miami. They've been here,
Yep. I see someone mention Earl Little Jr. That talk has come back now. It was something that didn't seem like it was going to be really not any chance at all for Miami when Diaz was head coach, but it sure seems like things have changed a little bit now that we've made this move to Cristobal. Sounds like Earl Little Jr. and his dad are more intrigued in Miami.
I think it'll be either Alabama or Miami.
Yeah, I agree. That's the two right now in the lead as far as I've heard.
All right. Jaleel Skinner. That's going to be a huge one. I think it's Alabama, Miami right now.
Yeah.
If we land Jaleel Skinner, keep Coach Fields on staff and on recruiting role or something. You got to keep him. He earns that one.
Oh, dude, if he lands him, dude, right now, especially while we're still developing our staff and it's not like a full unit, oh, hell yeah, dude. I mean, you got to give the guy his props for that.
If Jaleel Skinner commits to Miami, I think he's a day one starter.
I think no matter what, he would at least be utilized in the offense. Even if it wasn't starting, he'd still have a big role in it, dude, because he's just that flashy of a player. And to have a guy like him to possibly play tight end, think about what could happen with Brewster coaching him as well. Think about what Brewster did for Pitts. Think about that for Skinner. That could be incredible, dude. We can do this the right way, like you talked about. We can have Fields and Brewster both be on the team. Just have Fields in a different role, more of a recruiting role, and have Brewster as the tight end development guy. Dude, I would love it. Absolutely love it.
U-Town with the $5 donation. I want Cyrus Moss. Well, first off, thank you very much for the donation. Greatly appreciate it. This guy is 6'6", 220 pounds. They say he is better than Gregory Rousseau. Well, hey, I'm all for that, man. 6'6", 220 with a good D-line coach. I mean, I'm sold. Cyrus Moss to the U. Let's do it.
6'6", 220, and is supremely athletic. Might have the best closing speed in the nation at defensive end. I'm not kidding, dude. Seriously. I mean, if he doesn't have it, he's at least top 3 that I've seen. And you know how much film I watch, dude. That's pretty much all I do. His film screams at you, dude. Elite pass rusher. And I actually saw some understanding from him on the edge on how to contain in the run game too, which has been a problem at Miami, dude. Our defensive ends haven't been great run stoppers for a while. While he's not, exactly proficient in it or great in it yet, I saw that he understands what he needs to do, though. Not over rushing, not being over aggressive at times when he did pick up that they were going to run the ball, staying on the edge and making that tackle. It's a big thing for a defensive end. It really is.
If you guys can hit the like button, subscribe button, we would greatly appreciate it. Smash the like button if you want to see Jaleel Skinner playing for the Miami Hurricanes in the tight end rotation this upcoming season. Hit subscribe if you want to see Cyrus Moss commit to the University of Miami and become one of the next great Bishop Gorman football players. The pipeline from Bishop Gorman to Miami keeps going.
We would not be having these conversations if Manny Diaz was still our head coach. I can promise you that. I can promise you. I've talked to enough recruits to know now that there's a big difference between Cristobal and Manny Diaz in their eyes.
All right. So Sigmund, there's other people as well saying, I see guys on here talking about flipping Fegans. We've had the entire family on our show. Ross, you have a good relationship with Fegans' father. I guess take us back to when he decommitted from Miami to Alabama and where things are right now.
They were invested in T-Rob. The whole family was. This wasn't just one of their sons. All the sons underneath and the parents, both parents, were totally invested in T-Rob, and it hurt them, dude. When Trey had to make that decision and had to make that move, it hurt because they really believed that Miami was going to be not just a spot for Trey, but for the rest of their sons coming up, and they would be under the T-Rob umbrella because they trusted him that much, dude. They really, really did. I will say that it seems to be that Fegan's dad, especially, is a lot more intrigued in what's going on lately in Miami social media now that Cristobal has been around. And I'll tell you what, dude, I saw the same thing kind of happen with him when it was time for Trey to make his decision to leave Bama. They kind of ramped it up a little bit. So, hey, dude, like I showed you, he left a like on my post about the recruits not having any chains on anymore in their pictures, all the turnover chains and stuff gone. So he sees what's going on at Miami, and he appreciates it.
Yeah. No, definitely. I mean, look, Travaris Robinson has an outstanding relationship with their family. Um, honestly, do you think we can flip him at the end? If that's you think that's still in play?
I'd like to think it is. I really would. It's tough to have a kid commit to a school, go to an elite school, and then come back to the other school. It's not a thing you see a lot of, but it can happen. And I would love to see us flip that back around, knowing that Diaz is gone and that T. Rob will actually be around and want to be around at Miami for years to come. The whole thing was is that they had no idea if Diaz was going to stay or not, if T. Rob was going to stay or not. Traquan couldn't commit to something like that. He needed something solid and he needed something real, and we couldn't offer it that time. But now we can.
All right. Paul and Ross, how do you explain we don't have one transfer so far coming to the U? More will come. Marcus Banks was just Cristobal to Miami. This is just the beginning. We're seeing tons of quarterbacks going the transfer portal. More and more every day will be going to the transfer portal. We're going to get some good names coming soon. I guarantee you.
We will be active in the transfer portal because Diaz just forced it. We're late to the party, dude. While
Yeah.
Cristobal and them are elite recruiters, you can't expect them to just change the world of Miami in a couple weeks. It's not how it works. They're going to need some time. So transfer portal will have to be utilized in a smart way this year. And I think Cristobal is plenty capable of doing it in the best ways possible for Miami to make it so recruiting isn't impacted too much in 2023 because he knows how special that class is.
Do you think we can crash the top 25 after a signing day's over in February? Like officially, early signing day and then national signing day.
If we land one or two of these players that we're talking about, these elite guys, I think it bumps us up a little bit more. But of course, you have to fill out the class with some other guys who can keep that average, the point system that they go by, keep the average up so it looks like a top 25 class. But dude, if we get a guy like Cyrus Moss, we get guys like Kevin Coleman. I mean, dude, our grade bumps up majorly with guys like that immediately.
100%. Nigel Lee Kelly as well. Yep.
Yes. Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned him. Yeah.
All right. So before we wrap up this show, Ross, over 360 people joining us live. Greatly appreciate it. 38 minutes in. We do this on the fly. We're going to go live tomorrow, do a recruiting show with some very elite guests in honor of early National Signing Day. Give me your projected offensive coaching staff that you think will be representing the University of Miami's football team for the 2022 season.
I think Bryles will be the guy that we end up going with the OC. I think that we could definitely bring in a guy like Ponce to be the run game coordinator if we decide not to keep our current coach. The wide receiver coach from Oregon sounds like he's going to come over. And then I wouldn't mind having Brewster take over the tight end role and letting Fields just focus more on recruiting. That wouldn't bother me one bit, man. And the offensive line role, Mirabel. I trust him. I mean, I absolutely trust that guy. He's a little 5'2" ball of fire.
That sounds like an outstanding offensive staff. Top 10 in the nation.
Absolutely.
I completely agree with that. No, I completely agree. Running backs coach Jaquan Cedar, Eric Hickson, whoever you want.
Either way, we're going to be fine in that role if we have either of those guys. No problem.
What about defensively? Who's your mock kind of staff there?
Defensive line coach, man, I'm going to go with the guy that I've just wanted for so long. I'm going to go with Charlie Partridge. We make that move happen. We finally get him out of Pittsburgh and we get him to Miami. And I'm telling you guys, if this happens, it's so vital. It's so big and it's so crucial. We would have the best defensive lines that we've had in quite a while. And that's from top to bottom, not just going after the quarterback and stuff like that. Guys who can contain the run game as well and guys who understand filling lanes and gaps. So that would be the guy I'd want at defensive line. The linebacking roles, dude, I'm honestly not quite sure yet. I don't know. Have you looked into anybody at linebacker yet? Because I know there's been a lot of talk.
I would think Schumann just takes it over.
That was my kind of feeling. Yeah, exactly. I think that we'd like to do something like that. I don't know if we necessarily want to have a guy like Patke around who's just doing a partial linebacker coach thing and coaching special teams. I don't think we want to do that anymore.
Our staff at Miami was so we had some good. Likens was good. Lashley, to a certain extent, was good. It was really, there were a lot of holes. I mean, to be the elite of the elite. Sigmund with a $5 donation. Thank you so much for always watching. We greatly appreciate your support and donation. Is Singletary in play, Ross, since T-Rob is back? I don't think so. Could be wrong.
Unfortunately, I don't think so. I think that the admiration and the feelings he has for T-Rob are real, but I don't think that he's going to take off from such an elite program that's putting guys in the NFL at his position year after year after year in the first, second round. I just don't think he's going to do it, unfortunately.
Gotcha. All right. By the way, guys, Landon Ibieta received an offer from LSU. He has not really been in contact with Miami.
It doesn't seem like it, man. It doesn't seem like there's been a whole lot of chatter between those two right now.
Okay. So you think potentially he's dropped, right?
I don't know. I don't know if it's dropped or just coaching change happened and philosophies happened and all that stuff. I think they of course they like Ibieta as a player and they like some of the upside he offers, but I think that we're going after some bigger targets. Honestly, I think that Cristobal setting his sights pretty high, and I think he plans on fulfilling those.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting how this plays out. Honestly, if you snag Kevin Coleman, Nigel Kelly, Cyrus Moss, and then a random surprise name that like catches everyone off guard, huge win for the small amount of time that you've been in Miami for, literally a week, if not less.
The fact that we're even able to talk this way after Cristobal's only been here for this short amount of time is exciting. It really is, dude. I mean, there's so much more hope now from recruits for the University of Miami than there was as Diaz as head coach. And I'll tell you what, guys, my DMs on Twitter are full of recruits asking me questions because they're so much more intrigued now than they were with Diaz. The questions I used to get from Diaz as head coach and the questions I get now with Cristobal is night and day, dude. It was nothing but concern and worry when they asked me about Diaz. Now it's about, hey, this is exciting. Do you think this is going to happen? Do you think Cristobal is going to do this? And they've got excitement now, dude. They're actually excited to see what might happen at the University of Miami.
The recruiting landscape for the Miami Hurricanes football program in South Florida and nationally has done a complete 360 under Mario Cristobal.
This quick. Look at what we're talking about. Guys who would, like I said, we wouldn't even be talking about these guys. We wouldn't even be mentioning their names if Diaz was still our head coach. That just shows you how much of an impact Cristobal can have. And I'll tell you what, guys, he might not knock it out the park in 2022, but he's going to freaking kill it in 2023. And that class is elite. We have so much local talent.
It will be a top 5 or top 10 class, hands down.
Yeah.
Year in and year out.
Yep. I think he knows how to set that up for us and knows how to get those relationships going locally to make it happen year after year after year. And remember, Cristobal is not just going to be a guy who recruits in Florida. He's got national chops. He can get outside the state and go after some elite guys too, like the Cyrus Mosses of the world. So, dude, I mean, it opens up so many opportunities to have an elite recruiter as our head coach.
Well, thank you, everyone, to the 377 people that joined us live right now. We greatly appreciate you taking the time out of your night to talk some Canes football, a little bit of a mock coaching staff, and just kind of things that have been floating around the internet. And, man, early National Signing Day is very near, and we can't wait to do our recruiting show tomorrow at 9 p.m. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Go Canes. All about the U.
Go Canes.